Hi everybody, my name is Lane McConnell, and I'm going to be your instructor this semester for Math 1350P, which is an introduction to statistics, plus some additional co-requisite material that'll help you get through all of the statistics that we're going to cover. This video is just to give you a sort of short overview of sort of what the course expectations are going to be, what the workload's going to be, and give you some general information you can use to get in touch with me, or seek out help, things of that nature. So I'm pretty much just going to kind of go over some of the important points of the syllabus, which we have here up on the screen. Again, my name is Lane McConnell. If you want to get in touch with me, the best way to do it is via email. And my email is right here on the syllabus. It's lmcconnell6@cnm.edu. I'm going to be having weekly office hours on Tuesdays from 11 a.m. to noon. We're going to be using Zoom for these office hours, and we're going to be using Zoom for a number of other interactions, exam reviews, things of that nature. So none of those things are going to be required. There are no required meeting times for this class, but there will throughout the semester occasionally be some live interactions that you're welcome to attend in case you want to actually ask questions in person and get immediate feedback rather than playing the back and forth email game. The syllabus outlines sort of a description of what the class is going to contain. It has a long list of student learning outcomes, which you probably don't really care about. Most of these terms, you're not going to understand what they mean until we cover them in class anyways. But it basically goes over all of the different stuff that we're supposed to cover, all of the statistics that we're going to learn. The way this class is going to be set up is kind of unique. So this is a 4 credit hour class. It's when we get back to face-to-face classes, there will actually be 6 contact hours every week. 3 hours worth of basically doing statistics material, and then 3 hours of doing the co-requisite material. And when I say the co-requisite material, what I mean is there's a lot of math in statistics, and the co-requisite material is stuff for you to brush up on your math skills, your algebra skills, rearranging a formula, brushing up on the equation of a line and graphing lines, things that we're going to wind up using in statistics. And so what we're going to try to do in this class is hit all of that material right before it becomes relevant to the statistics. So for example, in chapter 4 of the statistics material, we're going to talk about something called a least squares regression line. And the idea of a least squares regression line, which will become more clear then, involves having to graph a line. And so the week before that, in the co-requisite material, we're going to review linear equations and graphing lines so that it's familiar to you when we get to the statistics portion that relies on that same material. So this is going to be more or less the setup. Every week you will have sort of 2 separate sets of work to work on. You'll have the statistics material, and then you will have the co-requisite material that's going to support the statistics material. So we've staggered it so that basically the co-requisite material, as you're doing it, it may not be clear why you're doing that, but we've set it up so that you'll work on that co-requisite material, and the skills you learn, the algebra, the graphing lines, all of that stuff, will be used shortly after we learn it in the actual statistics class. So that's why we've set it up this way. We're learning sort of 2 things at once, all the statistics material and then all of the math that's going to support that statistics material. If we come down to back to the syllabus, let me go over a few things that we're going to need. First things first, we're going to be using a textbook by an author named Navidi and Monk, 2 authors, I guess. You have access to this textbook from day 1. It's included with, you've already paid for it, it's included with your tuition for this class, all the registration fees for this class. And you'll have access to that through, or an ebook of that at least, through an Alex website, which we will have available. There's a link over on the side. I don't know which side it's on. On one of the sides here, that will allow you to access ALEX, and that's what you'll be looking for. ALEX is going to be the repository that will include all of our homework, all of our co-requisite material, as well as the ebook if you would like to read. My hope is that you won't really need to read the book very much. I've prepared a bunch of lectures, video lectures, that I will be posting on YouTube, and those lectures will cover probably 90% of the material that you would need for the homework, and it'll cover 100% of the material you would need for exams. There will occasionally be a few things on the homework that aren't going to be relevant to the exams, but they're just kind of nice little extra things to expose you to. So just know, if it doesn't show up in one of the lecture videos, it's not fair game for the exams. So and there won't be much. They'll mostly coincide with one another. What is on the homework and what's in my lecture videos, but there will occasionally be a few little pieces that you'll have a homework problem or two just to expose you to that material, but it won't be important for exams. And I'll try to highlight that when we get to those points. As an optional item that you can purchase if you would like is a graphing calculator. I'm not making these required, but most of my students last semester that took this class online, most of the students that got graphing calculators said that they thought it was really, really helpful. So it's an optional thing. Several students last semester got A's in the class without having to do it, so it's a matter of whether or not you can afford it. They're expensive. They cost about $100. They're right down here in the syllabus. It says a TI-84 is what's required. Really, any graphing calculator will work. So there are other models, TI-83, TI-83 Plus, they have the word plus, or Silver Edition, or whatever edition you want. Those are all fine. And if you have one from another brand, Casio or HP, they also make graphing calculators. You're welcome to use one of those, but the calculator commands will be different than the ones that I'll be going over in the lecture videos where I demonstrate how to use the graphing calculator. If you want to use, so on exams, they won't be required, but you are welcome to use one. On the homework, sometimes it's really necessary to have a graphing calculator. As an alternative to actually purchasing one, there are apps you can download on your phone. And I've also got those listed on the syllabus here. So there's one for Android, and you can actually download it onto your computer, onto your PC if you like. And there's one for the iPhone. And the one for Android is free. The one for iPhone, I think, costs $6. So it's a lot cheaper than the $120 graphing calculator. So that is totally up to you. If you'd like to discuss it further with me, feel free to shoot me an email, and we can kind of discuss the pros and cons of using a calculator. If you're not using a calculator, I'll also be demonstrating how to do pretty much everything that we're going to need in the class using Microsoft Excel. And you should have access to that through your CNM student account automatically for free. So I'll provide a link for where you can download that if you don't already have it installed. But I will basically be demonstrating throughout the semester as we do the hard math. I'll be demonstrating how to do it on a calculator, a graphing calculator, but also how to do it in Excel. And you're welcome to pick which one you prefer. Attendance, I want to go over that real briefly. And then I'll come back to some of this other stuff I'm skipping over. Obviously, this is an online class. You really need to stay caught up. So there's no such thing as attendance, and I will not drop you for lack of attendance, whatever that means. But you need to be logging in a couple times a week, keeping up, checking on announcements, and just trying to keep up with things in general. It's really easy to fall behind in this class, especially early on. The first 6 weeks of this class are kind of the heaviest in terms of having both a large workload for the statistics material plus a large workload for the co-requisite material. And it'll really ease up significantly after that first 6 weeks. The co-requisite material will become kind of an afterthought. We will have finished most of the math that we need to succeed on the statistics material. So try to hang in there the first 6 weeks, really push. It's going to be time consuming. Remember, this is meant to be 6 contact hours, a 4 credit hour class. You can expect this to basically be especially early on, double the week of a normal or double the work of a normal math class. But I promise it will ease up once we get about a third of the way, half of the way through the semester. Um, Again, I'm not going to drop you for lack of attendance, so you need to keep that in mind as the semester progresses. If you start to fall behind, it's on you to drop the class. I'm not gonna drop you. If you just suddenly disappear from the class and don't bother dropping, you just wind up getting an F at the end of the semester. So that's how it'll work out. The way that we're going to grade things in here, so there's some registration deadlines and other stuff in the syllabus that you can kind of look through, but the thing that you probably care about the most is the grading policy. Our grade is going to be made up of a bunch of different things. The first one is that ALEX that I was mentioning previously. We're going to have co-requisite homework. That's the material where we work on the math that's going to support statistics, brushing up on algebra, brushing up on equations of lines, things like that. That's going to be due every week. The only exception will be weeks when we have exams. We won't have new homework assigned to those weeks. But so your ALEX co-requisite homework is going to be due on Sundays, basically before midnight, so 11:59 p.m. And that's going to be worth 15% of your grade, so it's a big chunk. You're also going to have homework that focuses on the statistics material. It's also an ALEX, and that's going to be due weekly as well. Same thing. You won't have any new assignments on weeks where we have exams, but every other week you will have homework assignments, and those are going to be due a day after the co-requisite ones, just so that it's not everything due all at once. Those are going to be due on Mondays at 11:59 p.m. You're going to have a small participation grade. This you will earn by just basically participating in. There's going to be an introduction post that you have to post on a discussion board. We're going to have a dry run through of how we're going to deal with exams. All that kind of stuff is going to make up 5% of your grade. We're going to have 3 midterms, so to speak. They're going to be worth 10% of your grade each. So the good news is they're worth a small enough amount individually that bombing one won't kill your grade overall in the course. But when you add them all up, they add up to 30% of the grade. So it's a big chunk. But that means your 3 midterms are only as worth it the same amount as your homework all combined. So really stick to doing the homework, completing it well, and it's going to give you a big buffer on the exam grades. We'll have a final project. It's worth the same as one exam, 10% of your grade, and we will have the final exam, which is going to be worth a big chunk of your grade, 25%. And that all adds up to our 100%. So 30% of it's going to be homework, 30% is going to be sort of midterms, 25% is the final, and then that last 5% is participation. I do want to mention, to make your life as easy as possible when it comes to homework, because there's a lot of homework to keep up with. You don't have to get 100%. And I know that when you use ALEX, there's going to be parts of it, certain problems that are kind of finicky. There's some graphing things that they require you to do. And if you don't plot it absolutely perfectly right on the spot, if you're 1 pixel off on your screen, it'll mark you wrong. And I know it's super frustrating when you're dealing with that. So what I've done is I've set it up that you don't need to get 100% on all of the homework assignments in order to earn 100% worth of credit. Down here it says, as long as you maintain or achieve an 80% average on the homework. So that's both the co-requisite problems and the actual statistics homework problems. If you maintain an 80% on each of those, I will round your grade all the way up to 100% at the end of the semester. So you don't need to worry about having everything perfect. So that means that occasionally, you can miss an assignment here and there, and it's not going to destroy your grade. But I wouldn't recommend it. Try to keep up with all the assignments. Don't fall behind. But it's going to be in hard 80%. If you don't hit that 80%, you will not get your grade rounded all the way up to 100%. 79% isn't going to cut it. It has to be 80%. So just keep that in mind. We also have, so here's a bunch of other announcements. Most of them are more relevant to when we actually have face-to-face classes, but I've just left them in there. The last thing that you might want to see is our tentative schedule. On the left side, so on the way left side, on the leftmost column, it tells us which week we're in the middle column here, it tells us which sections from the textbook we're covering. So basically, this is all of the statistics material that we're going to be covering. And then on the right, it talks about the co-requisite skills. And these are going to be covered in ALEKS. You'll be taking basically an initial knowledge check in ALEKS first thing before you start anything else, and it'll gauge how much of this stuff over here you already know and are already good at. And if you already know it and are good at it, it will not make you do problems from that. So it's going to be adaptive. It'll try to pick out which skills you are strong in, which skills you're weak in, and it'll focus on brushing up the skills that you need to brush up on, and it'll skip the ones that you're already competent at. So don't mess around on that initial knowledge check. Really try to do your best on it. And it will make your workload lighter because it might remove some of these topics for you, and you'll have less work to do in the future. So really give an honest effort when you do that initial knowledge check. It'll make your life easier down the road. But overall, this is what we're looking at. It has the weeks that we'll be having exams. Typically, we'll work out the absolute details of this, but typically I will give you about 48 hours to work on exams. They will be posted. Last semester I was posting them on Fridays, and you had all of Friday and all of Saturday to complete the exam, and it was due basically by midnight on Saturday, or 11:59 p.m. on Saturday. So you had 48 hours to work on it, or to do it. And once you start it, we'll be using, so this is probably the most important part. This is the thing I got the most gripes about last semester. So please, if you've been kind of drifting off and not really paying attention to the rest of this, pay attention now. We are going to be using a piece of software called Respondus Monitor during exams. It's going to be the way that we proctor the exams. If it was up to me, we wouldn't be using this software. I don't really particularly like it. And a lot of students find it invasive, but we don't have a choice. Math classes have to have proctored exams in order for them to transfer between institutions. So if you ever want to transfer to New Mexico Highlands or UNM or State or New Mexico Tech, or out of state for that matter, math classes have to have proctored exams, and this is the way that we're fulfilling that. So we'll go over the details of how that will work, but essentially that's what the webcam in our requirements is for. So a built-in webcam in your computer, totally fine. If you have a desktop computer that doesn't have a built-in webcam, you'll have to purchase one. I think there's a recommended one somewhere on the syllabus that you can pick, or at the bookstore. Doesn't really matter. Any webcam will do. What you're going to do is record yourself taking the exams. So you'll basically go through this procedure. You'll have to show an ID to verify that you are indeed who you say you are, that you aren't having your cousin or your friend take the exam for you. And it'll basically just record you taking the exam to ensure that you don't cheat. You'll have basically 2 hours to complete each exam once you start. So you'll have a 48-hour window in which you can do the exam, but once you start the exam, you have 2 hours to complete it. I try to design the exams to really only take an hour and 15 minutes for most people. I try to design them to be the same length as my in-person exams. But I give you a little extra time just because the software can be finicky and there's anxiety related to being recorded and all of that. So we'll go into more details, and we'll have a dry run-through practice test where you don't actually do a test, but we'll just practice the procedure of recording yourself. It's going to be a pencil and paper exam, so you'll have a PDF on the screen with all the problems. You'll write down your answers, and then you will scan and submit. So scan using either a scanner or just taking a picture with your phone, and submit the work that you've done into our My Courses, our new replacement here for Blackboard. In the past, if you have taken classes at C&M, we use C&M Learn, which was a Blackboard. We switched software this semester to something called Brightspace, and it'll be the place that you're accessing all of this. You'll have a way to turn in your exams through this particular portal. So keep that all in mind. It's going to be a pain in the butt. I don't like it. You don't like it. Nobody really likes it, but we don't have a choice. We're required to proctor these exams, and this is the only workaround that we have without having access to a testing center or places where people can go and take the exams in person. So just keep that in mind. I know it's not ideal, but we're going to have to grit our teeth and bear it for the time being. And hopefully, in the next semester or two, we'll finally be back to face anyways. And this will all be a distant memory. So, if you want more details about that Respondus monitor, it's in here, right here. Under the text and materials here, we talk about basically the procedure that you'll need. Again, we'll do a run through of it. They've recently changed it. You used to have either a Mac or Windows operating system to do it, but they've changed it so that it'll work on Chromebooks now. It'll work on iPads now. So hopefully you don't need to run out and buy a new computer. It should work on almost any device that you're currently watching this video on, hopefully. So if you have any questions about that, reach out, ask me questions, and I'll do my best to answer them. If there's anything I missed, I think I hit everything. I feel like I've been talking forever. Again, reach out with questions anytime that you want. I try to be as responsive as possible during the week. If I'm on the computer, I'll answer the emails basically as soon as I see them. Occasionally, it may take 24 hours during the week, and on weekends, I try to answer as quickly as possible as well. But occasionally, it'll happen where either I'm camping. I guess it's the middle of winter right now, so probably not. But some reason I won't have access or won't check my email for a day or two. And so if you email me over the weekend, I might not answer you until Monday. But I try to be as responsive as possible. So reach out with any questions that you've got that way. And otherwise, I think I've hit everything that was important. Otherwise, good luck this semester. I look forward to working with all of you. And I'll see you guys on the other side.